Okay, we use the indicative mood to talk about things that are facts or actual events. Think about some sentences that you know how to write in Spanish. Give me some examples. You don't have to put them in Spanish, but what are some things you can say? What did you learn how to do in first year? You said things like, what's that? My name is. Where are you from? You use the verb gustar a lot, which is talking about what you like. Second year, we started talking about preterite and imperfect. What do some of those sentences sound like? Yesterday I went to Owensboro. Those things are all things that are facts or actual events. Everything that you've learned so far is something that is certain in the whole realm of life. Andy, can you turn down on my speakers? On the speaker. No. Grab the speaker right there, and you're right straight in front of you. Red light. Red light. Nope. Oh, geez, I should just.
It's been a rough morning.
No, this one down here doesn't. That knob on the far end. All right. No, we don't have to listen to those.
You don't like the sound effects?
No, I don't.
I really like them.
They annoy me. Okay, you don't necessarily have to write this down, just listen. So, this is an example sentence of what is not the subjunctive. Oh, go back. Aprendo francés para mi viaje. This is what you know how to do. Aprendo is the yo form. I learn. I learn what? French. For what reason? For my trip. That's actual events. I learn. Okay? So that is fine and dandy. You know how to do that. We have another way of using verbs in the subjunctive. I don't know why she put that one in there. We're going to use the subjunctive to say what someone does or doesn't, so a positive or a negative sentence. This is important. Wants, tells, suggests, or recommends. Those underlined words are big, key words for you.
So write them down.
I think so. If you're going to write down something, that would be what I would write down. Okay, so to recap what I've told you and what probably went right over most of your heads. There are two ways to talk in Spanish. You can be speaking in the indicative. If you haven't written down the word indicative, you might want to now. There's indicative and there is subjunctive.
How do you spell indicative?
Indicative, but of course not with the E, the if. Indicative. Okay? Indicative is reality. The here and the now, or the was and the were or the will be, but it's reality. The subjunctive is the other mood. You can call it a mood. That's the best way to describe it. Because it's not a tense, because there's a present and a past within it. So there's indicative and there is subjunctive. Indicative is reality. Subjunctive is all this other stuff. When you want, Aaron, I want you to graduate high school. What do I want? Aaron to graduate. Do we know if that's going to happen yet? Is it reality? It's just what I want right now. I could say, Alan, the telling is the harder part. Let's go to the suggest. Alan, I suggest that you go to a 4-year college. Just because I'm suggesting it, does that mean that it's going to be reality? That's what Alrighty, so let's look at what they're going to, the sentences are going to look like. This is where your life gets much more complicated. Because every subjunctive sentence is going to have two parts. A sentence that includes the subjunctive form has two parts connected by the word K. You're going to have to conjugate two different verbs with two different subjects and link them with K. This is why we don't teach it until second semester of third year, because you're going to have to do a lot of remembering all your conjugations. So, you have to remember this, a subjunctive sentence is a complex sentence with two pieces to it. I want, I recommend, I suggest, K, and then another subject, and whatever you suggest or whatever you recommend. Just like my sentence, I want. That was my first phrase. That Aaron graduates. That's my second phrase. So we have to have K in them. You will always see K. And here's your examples. This is important. Quiero que tú respires. I want. Then we have our K. I want what? That you breathe every day. Tú respires. Now look at that. Quiero. Does that look familiar to you? Have you been conjugating quiero since first year?
Yeah.
Yes, that should look completely normal to you. I want. Then you have to have your connector K. But look at this. What is this infinitive? What does that verb, or what is the infinitive form? Respirar. An AR verb. Is that an AR verb ending on that?
No.
No. So we'll talk about how you form the subjunctive in it here in a minute. So I want you to breathe. We have a first subject, I, a verb, what I want. Next subject, you. What I want you to do is breathe. Okay? I think there are several of these. Sugiero. Who remembers what sugiero means? If you don't know, I think it's in your vocab right now. No. Have you had it? Sugerir? It's to suggest. So I suggest, and you're going to see it all over the place. So I would take a mental note or make a mental note or take a physical note. I suggest that you drink. What I suggest, do I know that that's going to be reality? Not sure yet. Bebas agua antes de correr. First subject, I. What is reality? I suggest. What is not reality, which is just my good idea, is you drink. What does bebas come from? Beber, which is what kind of verb? A-R-E-R or I-R? An E-R. That it's ending. Just keep thinking about those endings. Okay.
So if it's ER or IR, it's going to be
Ah, you're on to it.
AR.
Yes. The opposite vowel endings. Have we done this before? Yeah. So conjugating them is not going to be that hard. Using them in the right places will be. But keep in mind everything that I've said so far. The subjunctive will always have two parts to a sentence. It has to have indicative setting it up. The subjunctive is always going to be in the second part of the sentence. Because it has to. There has to be someone wanting, someone suggesting, or an opinion. It's good that. The subjunctive will always happen back here. And the reason why I keep telling you that this is going to be a little bit more challenging, you've got to conjugate this correctly, and you've got to conjugate this correctly. So there's
Double whammy.
double the work, one answer. Okay? I think this is another one. Exigir. El entrenador exige, which is a stem changer, que los atletas estiren. The trainer demands. A demand is something that sets the next clause into the subjunctive because we don't know if they're really going to do it. I tell my cheerleaders to stretch every practice, and they physically have to sit down and do it, but it's kind of up to them to do that to their own body, right? So do we know if that's reality or not? No. All right? So demanding something puts it into the subjunctive. Are we getting a little bit clearer? Indicative, K, subjunctive. Okay. You can also suggest more general or impersonal, so that don't have a subject, using expressions such as es necesario. What's that mean? It's cognate. It's necessary. Or es bueno, or es importante, followed by a K and a form of the present subjunctive. So you can say, it's important that you study vocabulary tonight. Es importante que. Es was in the indicative. Now I need to move to the subjunctive. You study. I'm going to need to conjugate estudiar in the subjunctive, which we haven't talked a whole lot about. Aaron's already figured out, several of you have, is that it's that opposite vowel ending. So it would be estudias instead of estudias. All right. So here is an example of that. It's necessary that you do hagas. You guys have used hagas before. It comes from hacer. Here's another one. Es importante que los jóvenes coman. That came from an ER verb, comer. All right? So these are impersonal expressions. Es necesario, es importante, and there are a whole bunch of other ones. Es is in the indicative. Okay, I feel like I've said this over and over, but one last time. It has two parts with a different subject connected by K, right? Indicative, K, subjunctive. All right, here it is broken down for you even more. Get all these pieces up here for you. All right, so ella sugiere. This is an independent clause because it can stand on its own. We've got a subject and a verb, and it's in the indicative. That should always happen. Subject, verb, indicative for this type of sentence. We have to have K, and then we have our dependent clause. It begins with K, and our verb is in the subjunctive. Once again, that's everything that I've just been saying, but laid out for you in nice little boxes and charts, and some of you, like me, need to see things rather than hear things. So two parts, independent and dependent clause. Indicative first, subjunctive second. I'm sure this is in the PowerPoint later, but one thing I want to point out right now. This is a subject, and this is a subject. In order for you to use the subjunctive back here, there has to be a subject change. This sentence cannot be all about the same person. It has to be me suggesting someone else, or you demanding, well, that's natural, of someone else. There are some sentences, I'll show you some where there is no subject change. You don't even conjugate the verb. It's in the infinitive form. Okay, that's written out. Everything that I've been hammering away at. First one, use the indicative. Second one, use the subjunctive. Okay, you might want to write down these little this little list. These are ones that, by meaning, naturally have subjunctive behind it. Just like in preterite versus imperfect, there are some verbs that commonly get used with imperfect and commonly get used with preterite. And a lot of them are cognates, which is always fantastic. Have you had suherior? Why am I not remembering this? Yes, no?
I don't think we've had it.
You don't think you've had it? I bet it comes in your vocab list next lesson. It's a stem changer. Yeah, next lesson, 4.1. Okay, if you don't have them all, you can always pull this up and look at it, or get them from your neighbor. Since this is long, we're going to keep on moving. Okay, now let's talk about how to form it. You've probably gathered pretty much what's going on. But we form the present subjunctive of most verbs the same way that we learned how to do -to commands and usted and ustedes commands. Remember those 3 steps that we've always talked about? What's the first one? Go to the yo form of present indicative. So if my yo form is of hacer is hago, that's what I need to see. If I have a stem change, do I want to see it? If I go to the yo form, it's in the boot. So yes. What's step 2, Bailey? Chop off the O. What's step 3? Brittany, Byerly?
The opposite ending.
Add the opposite ending. All right, so there it's telling you, drop the O. For AR verbs, those are going to be your endings, es, amos, and en. For the ER, IRs, complete opposite, as, amos, and an. We need to see stem changers. We need to see yo-go verbs. All of that is important when you're conjugating your verb in the subjunctive. Are there irregulars in the subjunctive? Of course. Do you already know them though? Did you learn some irregulars for commands? Yeah, you did. What's ear? How do you say don't go? The yo form of yo is boy. So we can't really just chop off an O. But the subjunctive has a Y in it as well, so it should be no vayas. Yes, that's going to be the form that you need. Okay, here are some examples. We're going to fly through these. So, saltar is an AR verb. And there it is with its O chop. Salte, 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 etc. Conocer. Notice, conocer has a yo form of conosco, ZCO. This is why it's challenging. You have to remember all those weird things that are going on with these verbs. So its subjunctive has that ZC every conjugation. The yo form of decir is digo. So this is what its subjunctive looks like. And they have the same spelling changes. We already know that. So, as in negative commands, irregular verbs that add a G to the stem also have the G. Let's see one of them. Caer say. What's the yo form of caer? Caigo. C-A-I-G-O. So you're going to need that G in there. That we've already talked about. Decir has D-go. Hacer is ago. Pongo. Salgo. Tengo. Trigo. Sorry. So all of those, you still need that G in there. If it has it in the yo form, then it's going to keep it in the subjunctive all the way throughout. Tenga, tengas, tenga, tengamos, tengan.
What is the first one?
Caigo, C-A-I-G-O, and it means to fall down. That's why it's reflexive, because it's something that happens to you. And unfortunately, they consider it that you do it to yourself. Okay. Oh, yes, show us all the way through. So here it just shows you step by step. Ago goes to aga. All right, what about kargarzar verbs? Are we going to see their changes? Because of the sound. Buscar is going to need to keep that hard C sound with an E right behind, because an opposite vowel of AR would be an E. By chopping that O and adding an E, what sound would that make? Boo-say. And so we need to keep it boo-skay. So we change our C to a QU. Notice what's not there on that E. It's not an accent. That would be in the preterite. All right, pagar goes to page. And a czar word has a Z to a C. So you still need those. Do you think that's going to continue? Like, what would the to form be of buscar, Aaron? Do you need it?
No, I don't.
Think about it. What's going to come right behind the C? What's the opposite vowel ending? An ES. So you still need it. All right. We're almost done. Oh, yes. What about these fun ones? Proteger. What do you think happens to that G in the yo form? Yeah, it's got to stay there to make that soft sound. So those are just two examples. Extinguir has a little bit of a... The only reason why this U is here is to make this G sound be G, the hard G sound. So whenever you have an O behind it, you don't need that anymore, and they just drop it out. And that's going to happen over here as well. So the G-U-I-R verbs, anything like that, is going to follow it. Like seguir, we use that verb a lot, to follow, would be siga in the subjunctive. And that must be it for today, because we must do the irregulars another day. Open up your textbooks to página 184.